Okay, so next project. Uh, do you need distilled water? Yes, you do. If you want to do things, if you want to accomplish stuff, if you are like me and you're all time doing all kind of junk, you're going to need distilled water. Now, that's different from a still. Not really, but we're not making a still. Uh, this is some of the stuff I'm going to use. I found some 1/4 inch OD 50 foot at Lowe's. They were like selling it for just a few dollars, pennies on the dollar. And so I bought 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 boxes. That's how cheap it was. I've always wondered, in the back of my mind, I've thought about, I'm gonna make a condenser out of this stuff, and I'm not even gonna need this 50 foot. Uh, and but I've got it. Um, and I don't know where or how I'm going to use it. And I may completely decide not to, because with some of the other stuff I've got ideas, I may not have to. I don't know, but I will make some kind of condenser. So we've got that, and that's a 1/4 inch outside diameter OD. And I've got this Hoffman box cooling fan that is 120 volt, or it says on here 115 volt. Depends on who you ask, what household outlet sockets voltage is. But this is 115 volt, 50 to 60 hertz, 20 watts. That's what we got here. So it's not, it doesn't blow super fast. And I could put kind of like a variac on this, I think, or I don't know what that would do to it. But I may can adjust it if it's blowing too hard, or but in my history with a lot of these smaller fans like this right here, it's not gonna go crazy. If I had an extension cord over here convenient, no, I wouldn't. Shouldn't do that. Never mind. So I've got that. I've got some of this. Yes, this is copper pipe. This is, how big is this stuff? 2 inch, 3 inch, 2.5 inch. Big, very big. This right here, I would say, is probably 1.5 inches. So this is 2.5 inch something. Got a T on here. So my thought process for this is a cooling tower, to where vapors have come up and bleed off through here, possibly going into the 1/4 inch tubing, coiled up with the fan blowing, or possibly coiled around a piece of PVC pipe that I could fill with cold water if I wanted to, with fan blowing on the outside, any combination of whatever. But I'm pretty sure however hot I get it, I can cool it down pretty easy with what I got. So cap on it here. I don't know how tall this would need to be, but I've got a bunch of this in a job. I was overseeing a crew and working myself 80 to 90% of the time, demolishing the AC system in a 5-story building from top to basement. So 5, 6, 7. You could say 7 stories. You got pictures of me operating a man lift, pulling parts of the AC system off the top of a 5-story building. That was hairy. Wind was blowing. It was cool. I enjoyed it. I love running equipment. Anyway, so I've got a bunch of this, and actually I got rid of tons of it a while back because it was just, I had too much. And I've got various sizes, and so, but this is the biggest, and I'm not sure how I want to work this into it, but this is going to be part of it, I'm pretty sure. And possibly even a 2-stage, to where, and this is going to be the main heating unit, but possibly a 2-stage where a short one comes off of here and vapors overflow, and then from there go to a cooling system that may or may not have another tower in it. Who knows? And for all I know, I mean, I've even got ideas to work something like this, possibly a short one coming off the top of this and then a taller one over here with this 1/4 inch tubing wrapped around this pretty in tight coils, and running cooling water through that to cool this tower down, condensing the vapors back into liquid. So options, got tons of options there. Here is the main part of the project. An old school coffee maker. This was pretty awesome. Seen it at the Goodwill, and I had to get it because it's gonna do the job. I may even leave that on there. I don't know how, what, where, but let's kind of explain how this works. So you have two lights up here. You have a power light and you have a ready light. So here you go. And this top is perfect because it's got this glass lid, which you see your coffee percolating up into, and a nut on the back side of it. So I've got a hole already through here. And all I have to do is put my tube in, mount it to it, which I could, cut this hole out bigger if I need to, and flare that tubing to fit up in here and possibly solder it, TIG it. Well, no, not to copper, but fix it some kind of way. I can do that. So I'll figure out how exactly I'm going to do that. But I would probably use lead-free solder because I have no intent of drinking this water that I would get off of this, but I want to make it so that you could, if you could. It's not necessarily good to drink distilled water because there's nothing in it. It's everything, all the minerals and all the stuff good for you, other than just the water itself, stays in here, and then the water comes out that's clean. And so distilled water is what's in batteries, in capacitors, and stuff like that, because distilled water is not conductive. And the reason being is there's no metals in there to conduct the electricity. Water is not conductive. Water is non-conductive. Only water, like I'm pretty sure tap water, most or a lot of drinking bottled water is going to be conductive, as well as like probably rainwater, ditch water for sure, well water. All this stuff is in contact with the earth, collects and picks up. You can call it contaminants, but it's stuff from the earth, and it's in the water, and it makes it conductive. And so you don't want that. That's why if you take regular tap water and put it in a battery, you're going to short the battery. It might not happen right off, but you're going to kill the battery because the water is now conductive inside of it, and the cells will short out with one another. And so that's why you have to use distilled water in a battery so you don't kill it. So if you've ever put tap water in a battery and any period in the future that you're like, man, that's a brand new battery, why am I replacing it? Because you put tap water in. Okay, so this coffee pot, of course, the lid is actually secured. You can put it in there and twist lock it just like you can with a pressure cooker, which I've got a pressure cooker and I thought about using it. Actually, I do. I still have. Let me grab it. Hold on. Okay, so it's over there by my milling machine. And this is how far in advance I think about things. It's been over there for 3 years, for as long as we've been here. Like the couple days after we moved in, I was passing by the neighbors and they had a crock pot, or I say, not a pressure cooker, out front on the curb to be thrown away. And I'm like, that will make a great pot for a distiller. And no, I wasn't thinking about alcohol. I was thinking about this project right here. And that was 3 years ago. So that's how my that's how my brain does. It hurts. It's always thinking about stuff. And so I stripped all the plastic and everything off the outside of this. And like an idiot, no, I didn't. I'm not an idiot. For the first time, for the very, very first time in my entire life, I'm not an idiot. I left the seal on here. Awesome. I'm not stupid after all. Okay. And so here is the, and this right here, you don't want to take one from one pressure cooker and put it on another one, because this is weighted to the rating of this pressure cooker. And so what happens is the pressure builds up, it pushes it up, lets a puff of steam out, it comes back down, sets off, seals it, pressure builds up. And this relieves pressure. And if you put the wrong one that's heavier, then you build up more pressure in there. And that's the point of this. And there's a whole point, the deal that went with this. And I also had the idea of possibly making a vacuum chamber out of this. And I may still do it because this has got the heating element and everything built into it. So I'm kind of thinking, I'm not sure what I'm doing here, because I have another option to build a vacuum chamber out of, which I've been thinking about for about 10 years and collecting stuff. That's why I collect so much stuff, because it's different projects. I got 100,000 projects in my head that I see stuff and, oh, that will go with project number 1875432. Log it, put it to the side. When I get to that project, I've got it, and I never can find it. Anyway, that's another story. So, it's got this big old honking hole here, which I can seal that. This right here is another, I guess, oh, I know what this is. So, your pressure builds up in here, and that's sitting up there like that. And then, before you open this, of course, with that pressure on it, you can't really open it too easy, and you don't want to jerk this check valve apart, because this is all sealed in one unit, so that you couldn't stick something else on there. And this is a glass observation thing that's gotten busted. This would be popped up like this, so that's how you would get the pressure off the pot so you could open it, was push this down. And that relieves your pressure. And so if I make a vacuum pot out of it, I'll reverse this so that it's you got to pull it up or something. I don't know. I'll figure something out. But I think about it, and I'm probably going to use this as a vacuum chamber. Defeated by a pot. But it was a very, very, very special pot. It's not on there, right? But I don't care. But anyway, you get the, oh my goodness, idea. So I keep things rolling around in my head on stuff I'm going to do. Now let's get back to this. And I get shiny objects. I just get sidetracked but I make it back to where I'm going. Anyway, so here you go. I tested it to make sure it works. So the way the coffee pot works is this piece right here is spring loaded. This rod. These old percolators, more or less. And so this right here, this bell housing, fits down into a hole that's like a little sump in the bottom of this. And so the lid goes on, presses this down, compresses it, and turns and locks. You got a couple of little vent holes back on the side over here. And so that center piece gets superheated when it's on and it's not ready yet. And when it's superheated, there's water that drains down through the little setup right here and gets below it. It's superheated, turns to steam, pushes this up to relieve the pressure, and then water is forced through the center of this tube to the top from the steam pressure and hits this top, this lid bulb right here, splashes and comes down in the top section here and coats the grounds, and then drains back through that and the filter into the pot. And then this thing holds looks like that says 60. Yeah, 60. So this thing holds about 60 cups of water, and you're figuring about, I guess, an 8-ounce cup of coffee, 4-ounce cup of coffee. So 60 times 4 or 60 times 8 is how many ounces this would hold, which I wouldn't fill it up that much. But here's some other stuff about it. And I'd probably do some more sealing here. And I paid $6.99, $6.99. The tag's on the side over here. What you're going to have down here is probably 2 heating elements. I haven't looked at it. We're going to look at it together probably. But it's probably 2 heating elements. And so you'll have the one that is running that middle section, superheating the water to steam the way the deal is set up. Or I may just find that it's better to remove it. But I'm thinking maybe with the water splashing, it'll create cooler vapors. Maybe. I don't know. We're going to experiment and figure out what the best option is. Leaving the guts in or taking all the guts out. Don't know. But we'll figure it out. But this whole top here will be gone. And water, if it does, I do that, then it'll shoot up in the column that I put up here. And I'll have to put some kind of diffuser, like a kitchen sink strainer, stainless, and run it up in here. And the water will hit it so it don't just shoot all the way up. And I don't know how far that will go. May not have to do that. But anyway, something I'll do just because that's the way I am. That's how I roll. So the vapors will come up through that and go do their thing from that point on. So, and then there would be probably a warming element down here, in which they both work. I think they both work. If they don't, I know the light comes on, but and so what I'm thinking happens is that Clixon on that that Brother printer that we took apart, there should be one in here. Because that's an easier way than actually putting a thermocouple in there to monitor the temperature. So a Clixon would work great. And so what you would end up doing is, this portion would come on and it would run until that Clixon triggers and shuts it off. And until the liquids inside cool off enough, the main element that causes the steam would not kick back on again, because the other element would keep the liquid hot enough that it would be above the Clixon's lower setting. So you start with this thing cold. Of course, the Clixon is enabled. This right here kicks in, starts superheating steam, does its thing. All the water in here gets to the set temperature that kicks on the warming element. And the Clixon comes on, cutting this main element off. And the warming element, of course, it's already hot, and to the point that the Clixon's off, and the warming element doesn't allow it to cool down enough to turn the Clixon back on again. And that's what I think is in here. I don't know if that's what's in here, but that's what I believe is in here. I've taken so many things apart that I can a lot of times kind of figure out what is in something by looking at it and knowing how it actually works overall, mechanically, how they're going to do it inside. Now, let me tell you something. I've got heating elements. I've got Kanthal wire. I've got ways of winding. I've got PLCs. I have microcontrollers, and I can program a PLC like nobody's business, or a microcontroller to run my own custom heating element inside here and do all kind of fancy dan stuff. But it's all there. So we don't need to do that, because I found this. And it's shiny. It's shiny. So that's what I think is in there. This just adds some really cool stuff to it. And it's staying, probably. Oh, my back's hurting. So it's like I Distill Christmas Eve from the last video, 2024, and we're going to be going over to my son's house and the other kids and grandkids and everything, and we're going to do the happy-go-lucky stuff and enjoy one another. So I've got to cut this out, and we'll be back again going into this, doing some more stuff. But and one of the first things we're going to do is take this bottom apart to see if I'm right. Get a look at that Clixon that I believe is in there, and figure out what the rating is on it and how hot it gets. There is steam comes up through here. It does turn the water into steam. It doesn't get it to boiling. And I think that's a good thing, because your vapor production will be slower. Now, you get it to boiling, and you're going to produce tons of vapor, but everything's going to be hotter, and you have to cool that steam back down, condensing it to water, and your condenser has to be bigger. I have a history in huge, massive condensers and treating systems with railroad cross ties and utility poles. So I know condensers. I know vacuum systems. I know a little bit about a lot of stuff, but not a lot about anything. So with that said, we're going to find out what we got in here. And so I'm thinking that if I can keep it in between not boiling and hot enough to produce steam, or hot vapors that will evaporate the water, then my condenser doesn't have to be as big. My production is slower, but I just let this thing set and get what I get out of it and store it off to the side in containers and use it when I need it. Make some more when I have to. This will go off to the side until I use it again. And that's the only downside to it, is being as big as it is. But I'm thinking that if my columns, my cooling towers is not so big, that I can fit them inside here and fit my condenser coil and everything inside of here, then I just put this pot up on the shelf and there she blows. So that's my goal, is to have one self-contained unit that I open up and plug in. So hopefully I don't have to use the fan, but I have it as an option that I can maybe include it into the system in the condenser somehow or another. In which case I would wire it into the housing here possibly, or I would do something that would make it simple to break this all down and put it all inside here. So anyway, that's where we're headed. And hopefully before this Christmas week and New Year 2025 rolls around, me and you are going to get together and make some stuff happen here, because I'm off until the 2nd of 2025. I'm off most of the time, but I have to go back to work then, which I love my job. So I love my side job, which now is YouTube. I don't get paid for YouTube. It's all on me, but I get rewards when you guys comment below and subscribe, hopefully, and like and subscribe. But mainly comment. That I get my stuff from there, to know if you get something out of this, if this did something for you. So anyway, I'm going to go be a father, a grandfather, and we'll see y'all probably. We may get together again Christmas Day tomorrow, but most definitely, likely, if it's Jesus' will, the day after. So stick around. We'll be right back. Okay, so we are back live. All right. So here. Let's see. What I think I'm going to start with is kind of measuring my my standpipe here out to figure out where I need to cut it. So what I'm going to try to do is make this one short. I'm going to make it short enough that it will be able to set inside here underneath this, because I think I'm going to be leaving this in. I may not. And if I change that, I change that. But I think I'm going to be leaving this in. And so I need to cut this short enough that it will, I can take it and stick it up in here and it'll be fine. And then my condenser, I'll make out of the rest of this, and I'll leave it long until I figure out exactly what all I need to do with it. Because I'm kind of thinking with this standpipe going over to this wrapped in a coil, and this being short enough to fit up inside here as well. So it'll end up being probably about 2 foot worth of standpipe. And then the purpose of the secondary standpipe is because I want it to work as a heat sink. And so it'll be hollow all the way through, and I'll wrap this 1/4 inch ID tubing it'll come out here. This will come out the top of the deal. That looks like some rust spots. That ain't good. I don't know. I have to kind of keep an eye on that. But anyway, the pipe will come in here. This will come out. The pipe will mount in here some way. I don't know exactly how, but it'll mount in there. And so this right here will be able to shoot as it percolates up inside here. And I may need to put a screen to diffuse it so that it doesn't get up to this part, which is where my vapors should fall over into this this extended piece right here, which I will somehow adapt down to the 1/4 inch tubing and be able to disconnect. And this, I'm pretty sure I'll have to trim back some and trim the top over here. And then this pipe, I will extend that 1/4 inch tubing and wrap it around this pipe right here. And keeping my turns separated, not touching, and then go down as far as I may or may not need to. And then I'll probably clamp that in place so that it's solid. Now the point behind that is because I'm also thinking about adapting this fan to blow air up through this pipe to cool. And so this pipe right here will work as a heat sink that I'm working on cooling by this right here. And I don't have to get the vapors cold. I just have to get them below 212 degrees. That's 212 degrees. Well, I say that below whatever the flash point of water is, or the evaporative point of water is. So I know at 212 water's boiling and all kind of vapors is just coming up off of it. But before water starts to boil, it's already, you got water vapors starting to come off the top. And so I don't know exactly what those temperatures are. I will have to check those and see what's what and kind of go from there. But that's my thought process. And at worst case scenario, what I could do, if that doesn't work, then I would, because I've got so much of this stuff, then I may just take and sacrifice another roll and wrap it around some 8-inch PVC pipe that I've got to make larger coils and put them inside of a 5-gallon bucket to put water on. And so that would be another option that I could do with this setup. But I'm kind of thinking this is going to be enough to be able to condense it, at this point, with the fan up through here. Because I'm not thinking this right here is going to get so hot. Because, think about it. This is a coffee pot. This is a percolator. And so once you get done making coffee, people drink that stuff. And so it's not boiling when it gets to the point that it's being drank. So all I've got to do is cool the cooler vapors down, and I think this setup will work. Now, if I was running this off a hot plate and getting this to the point that it's boiling, then I think that I may have to do something different. And I may need to put some kind of control in here to adjust the heat, because I'm thinking I'll probably set this up so that I'm running the power and the heating element at the same time. So before I do any measurements on any of this, I want to pull the bottom apart and actually see what we've got down in there and see if it is what I think it is. So let's do that now. Get this out the way, or in a different way. Now I don't see any rust spots in this part of it, just in that lid. I don't really get that. Here, let's do this. It's my shop. And I can dump water on the floor if I want. So, let's see here. I wonder. No, of course not. And of course not again. And we already ascertained that that's 1/4 inch on both ends. So, I'm being lazy. I don't want to do socket and stuff out. So, here we go. You know, I got stuff knocking around outside. As long as the trees don't start falling. A bunch of big old members around this shop here. Thanks for sure. When them big old pines falls on this shop, I ain't gonna know it. And this ain't no live stream, so y'all ain't gonna know it neither. Okay, yes, we're all crazy in the South. Okay, so let's get this apart. Okay. Don't Bakelite maybe? So yes. I was correct. And maybe I can zoom in on this. Let me prop it against my old belly here. Right here is a Clixon. I have to get the numbers to see how that what the specs are on that Clixon. And then there's another Clixon right over here. And so I can see that I have 2 elements. Yep. So we have, of course, the outer housing is grounded, and the neutral is a quick connect. We got a spade plug over here that's coming straight off of 120 volt into the Clixon, and it bypasses the Clixon, or through the Clixon, which is basically breaking the voltage like we had talked about with the printer teardown. So in a recap, a Clixon they can be normally open or normally closed. In other words, they can allow voltage to pass or not in their default state. When it gets hot enough, it changes whatever that state is and whatever that temperature is. And then when it cools down, which say it triggers at 200 degrees, and when it cools down to 150, then it goes back to its normal default state, and it'll heat back up again to 200, and then it'll click off and cool down to 150, and then heat back up again. Now, I can tell you that these are going to be kind of match to a certain extent, because this one over here is what's happening is you come through here, and you're going into a heating element that's right here in that bottom, where I said that this part here sets in a recess that gets superheated, turns to steam, pushes the water up, pushes this part up, and water percolates out the top and filters down through the grounds. Okay, so that passes through here, through this heating element down here, and out the other side of the heating element, down through this clicks on over here, and there's your regular light on. So what we have here, yes, okay, so when this has got the water temperature hot enough to a certain level, this clicks on is normally open and it closes, which puts voltage through here to the green lead, which it comes on, or green bulb, then it comes on, and also this one over here is going to be cutting off at that same time. And so this is tied through a larger element that surrounds this one right here. It's the larger element on the outside here. And so that element is going to heat up to a lower temperature, but it's going to heat up to a temperature above the off state on this clicks on. And so it starts cold. This one is on by default. So when you plug it in, this starts heating up. It's percolating, percolating, percolating. Then once this gets to its set temperature, it kicks out, and this one's set temperature, which is normally open right here, closes. And of course, your ready light comes on, and it starts to cool. And this clicks on over here is not down to its cool state that allows it to open back up again, or to close back up again and start heating, because this heating element right here keeps it above that stage. And so it's a cycle. Once you start it and you keep liquid in here, it's a cycle that rotates round and round and round. And so this element is not allowed, or this clicks on is not allowed to get cold enough to cut this element back on again until all the liquid's poured out, because this element outside here is keeping the water warm enough, because this clicks on kicked on and closed the voltage, allowing that outside element to come on. And so until all the water or liquid is out, then both click-ons cool down below their low threshold trigger state, and the whole system is reset. And so that's exactly what I thought it would be. And so I've got to think about it a little bit and figure out how I want to run this. In the beginning, I'm just going to run it as is. I'm not going to change anything in here. I'm going to leave it just like it is, unless it gets way too hot. In which case, or this outer element right here does not keep the liquid hot enough to continue turning to vapor. In which case, I may, because I got room to put an Arduino in here, a Pico, or just anything, and kind of kick that thermostat in and out as needed. And I've got that, I've got multiple thermocouples that I could use and not even have to use click-ons. I can just use a voltage relay and bring both heating elements in and out as needed. But that's future stuff if this doesn't work by default the way it is. But I'm kind of thinking it will. And if it doesn't, then I'll work out a bypass for this element right here, because I'll need to cut it back on alternately at a, see, this one will just be a helper. It'll just help keep everything in there warm. And as it cools to a lower state, if it's not producing vapors, I need to kick this element back on again, and I'm not sure how I'll do that. Anyway, this is exactly what I thought it would be. That's all cool. That's all awesome. I'm going to take a picture of it and kind of look at all of it and think about it. Let my brain fizzle on it. It's a dangerous thing when my brain goes to fizzling, people. Oh, we got some stuff delivered in the mailbox right at the beginning of a storm. So, looks like it's trying to start kicking out there good, which means before it's a sturman, I am going to button this up for right now so I can get my camera inside, kind of review some of this stuff. We'll look at that H5N and we'll continue the mailbag and see what we got there. So, onwards and upwards. I was hoping we'd cut some stuff, but apparently we're not. Maybe we'll see how the weather goes and we may end up back out here again. Be right back. All right, so I really hadn't done a whole lot of thought. I know I said I was going to, but this a couple days later, and right now I'm just kind of thinking I'm probably going to go as is, default plain Jane, how it comes out of the factory, and see what we get. So what I want to do, I got to move that box. So what I want to do is get a measurement of the depth of the pot, which is to the top of that lip. I'm just going to say 9 inches. It's actually 9 inches and an 1/8, but I'm just going to say 9 inches. And then right here, don't know how much that's going to go down. I think I always trim it. Actually, I don't see that doing much of nothing. So because I want this stall to be self-contained. And so I'm going to say 8.5 inches. So that is what I say my pipe needs to be here. Let me clear this out. Just stick this stuff in my pocket so I don't forget it. Because I will. I won't do it on purpose, but I'll do it on purpose. That's the hungry Sony A6000 battery monster feeder. So, whenever we demoed this out of the building, and if I cut this or somebody else cut it, I don't know. But wasn't paying a whole lot of attention to being as straight as possible. So what I'm gonna do, because I'm gonna put this on the lathe and trim it up to where I want it to make the ends look neat. So I'm gonna go ahead and mark this at 9 inches, and I can trim the height just a little bit as need be. Let's go ahead and make it 9 1/8. We'll make it 9 1/8 inches. And we'll get that trimmed off. So let me aggravate you people just for a minute. Okay, so what I did was I trimmed this off. It's just over 9 inches, and That's more than enough. Straight enough, in other words. Probably clean this up because this is like slightly beveled. Clean the green up off of here. And this end right here is slightly a little crooked. I may clean that up a little bit, straighten it up. Brighten all this up, make it look good. Once I'm sure everything works. So in the build process, this is just going to keep looking ugly. And got to figure out how I'm going to cap the top off, and you know what, anything that keeps the doesn't have to hold a whole lot of pressure, but if it'll keep the steam in, push the steam down through here and through the coil, I think we'll be fine. So we got it. And yeah, like I knew, it's way too long. We're going to trim this up. So let's see if we can get in the lathe and kind of flush this end up good, get it where it needs to be. And we'll get our exact measurement and get it down to an exact 9 inches, or just, I'm probably just going to go 8.5 inches actually. Okay, so that's just about a 1/2 inch too long, so I know I'm gonna have to trim. And so let's get this apart because I already know that I want to go through the top. So I'm not 100% sure what I'm gonna need to do. So it gets through with a lot of room for error. So what I'll need to do is some kind of gasket or grommet or filler or something. I'm not sure what that'll be yet. So with that being the case, I need to go ahead and trim this on down to just get my, I think I'm just going to cut this section right here. Cut it right back to where I buffed it just now, or just out of that maybe. So we'll have it probably about that much sticking up. And so that'll make it more than short enough to get in there and hide it.
Your time is very important to me, and I thank you for spending it here with me. Thanks, and God bless.